Hello. This week I want to talk about what has become impossible to ignore. I do want to premise by saying I am going to be checking notes. I'm not someone who can memorize everything I want to say easily, but we're going to talk about it, use the notes and expand. So thank you for joining me in this new venture with YouTube series and episodes. So, what has become impossible to ignore? The first thing I want to start out with is I have been avoiding YouTube for well over 10 years, and I've tried, and there's bits and pieces on my channel. And so, this is really, for me, I am choosing to no longer ignore this factor. Um, but a lot of times, sometimes we ignore what's going on in our relationships with our lovers, with our partners, with our parents, with our children, with our friends. And it's easier just to ignore and become complacent within the situation because it's just the way it's always been, right? How about work? Sometimes we ignore things going on at work, maybe mistreatment or being overworked or being taken advantage of, things like that. Maybe it's our bodies. Sometimes we can ignore our bodies. Oh, the shoulders hurt for a really long time. It's okay. I've just learned to live with it and just ignoring the body's messages. And maybe it's simply that you've outgrown the way you've been living and you know this, but yet choose to continue living the same way anyway. So, what I find interesting about all of this is that on the outside, nothing appears to have changed. This is all an internal discussion. And yet it has changed on the inside. And it's like a big resistance, a big wall that's going up outside of us because we're ignoring this. And the change within that doesn't align with what's going on outside of us, it's that quiet awareness that I really do want to talk about here. So, in this, awareness comes before change. And most times people think, oh, well, I'll just quit my job and start a new one. That's a change, right? The decision to make that change. But it's not. I think change begins much earlier with awareness. And it's like the moment something no longer fits. And now all of a sudden we know that this change, this shift, this acknowledgement is actually required of us. It's like the world outside of us begins to drop these even subtle hints and subtleties with just the way change needs to occur. Because one thing I've learned through my existence, whether working with clients or even in myself, is that change is neutral. The only good or bad to change is our own personal definition of it. Even when we want more, sometimes we're afraid to go for more. If we have to take up space and we've been afraid to take up space, it can be incredibly uncomfortable. So it's like wearing shoes that you've outgrown. And believe me, being a reflexologist, I know our feet change and shift all throughout our life for many different reasons. The shoes have not changed, your feet have, which means life is very much the same. So outside of yourself, everything is still the same, but something is different within you. And some of us spend months, years even, trying to make ourselves fit lives we've already outgrown. And being in this work for as long as I have, I'm the same. We're all humans. We're bound by these social constructs that even when we no longer fit into them, we are still trying to shrink ourselves into this. And you're not doing anything wrong. We've grown. You've grown. Which means if the shoe no longer fits, it's time for a new shoe. So if the environment no longer fits you, if the relationship no longer fits you, if the connections no longer fit you, you can change. You can shift. And so when we grow, and within the Tree of Life healing system, I often think of the trunk when I think about this conversation. And so the trunk represents the structures in our life that have supported us, our identity, our routines, our responsibilities, our foundations, even. I know foundations get more into the roots, but the trunk comes from those foundations. It grows from those foundations. It's the way we've learned to survive. And like a tree, when it outgrows its current frame, it expands, right? It adds one more ring. And a plant, even a house plant, eventually needs a larger pot. We don't judge the plant for not fitting into the pot. We just get a larger pot and put the plant in and watch it flourish. So it's the same for you. If the shoe no longer fits, if the pot's too small for you, you need to expand. Growth rarely begins with certainty. That is really, really important because we think that, oh, we're going to go to school, we're going to learn this, or we're going to take this training course and we're going to learn this, and this is how we're going to grow. But every time we do something new, we are uncertain because of the unknown, the unfamiliarity of it. But that's what allows growth, is to get us out of our comfort zone so we can shed the layers that no longer serve us and step into the shine that's within. Growth begins when we recognize that we have outgrown something. So all of those signals, when we come back to what has become impossible to ignore, our own growth, because we limit ourselves if we continue to ignore. If we ignore listening to what needs to shift and change in a relationship, when we ignore what's at work that no longer fits us, or even really important, what's in our body, that our body is asking us to grow so that we have room to fit everything. So why this week, particularly this first week in July that I'm starting this and I'm talking about this? And the reason this week feels different is because the sky is literally echoing the same conversation. It is pulling apart the veil so that we ask ourselves what is impossible to ignore. Now, this particular week that I am posting this is really important, but a lot of this conversation will apply at any time this video is heard. So we've had a Capricorn full moon at the end of June, and it's highlighted the structures that we've been carrying, very much so. Then we have Mercury retrograde in Cancer, inviting us inward to nurture what's within us, regardless of some of the other conversations about it. It is really asking us just to nurture what is inside ourselves. It's not asking us to push ahead yet. It is asking us to revisit the stories we've been living and asking what actually fits. Same time, Jupiter has entered into Leo now, and it's asking a different question. What would it look like to become more fully yourself? So we want this Mercury in retrograde to go inward because we want to know the truth of what's within us, not the truth of what we need to keep showing outside of us. This is really talking about what kind of masks do you have on, and do you actually really need that mask anymore? So notice yourself during this time. Notice your body, your relationships, your work environment, your home. None of these energies are actually asking you to rush. And yes, Jupiter in Leo is a big, bright, fiery energy. But Leo is not always about rushing. Leo is also about ensuring that they expand fully, and that takes time. All of this energy is asking you to do is just take notice. And that's what's important. There's no need to rush ahead. There's no need to get things done and check things off your list quickly because you might miss something. The important thing right now is just to go within and ask yourself what has become impossible to ignore. And this is how you will begin to uncover the answers that you already actually have. And we'll go over these conversations over the next few weeks and work with the energy to pull out these answers. And to remember that the body always joins the conversation. So something I repeatedly see in my practice is our bodies actually recognize the changes needed before our minds do. So our shoulders will tighten, sleep changes, breathing can become shallow during the energies this time, the jaw will hold tension. And so these are things to pay attention to. If you are tight in any of those areas, ask, what are you resisting? What is being ignored? So these aren't like, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. It's just, hello, body. I recognize that you're tightening in these places, and I'd like to acknowledge that. And then ask yourself, where is this pressure? Where is this tightness coming from? This is the body's way of asking you to just listen to it. It's starting to whisper to you. And we don't want to ask how to make these tensions stop. We want to ask what has become impossible for me to ignore. Because when the body tightens, it's saying this needs to be addressed. And it's asking the mind to pay attention, because the mind will continue to ignore, because this mind doesn't want to deal with challenges. Whereas the body saying is sometimes these challenging situations or these challenging choices are what we need to go through in order to grow. And the body is asking us to grow. It wants to create that next ring. So as you continue to move forward this week and through the next, don't rush your answers. Practice just noticing, taking that breath and saying, where does it hurt today? Where am I not paying attention? Excuse me. Ask what feels heavier. Ask what allows yourself, what are you weighing? Are you taking on too much at work? Are you doing too much in your relationship or around your home? Kids just got out of school, right? So there's more responsibility or a shift in responsibility at the home. Just notice how this impacts you. Notice what feels easier. What do you like about what's going on right now? What are you enjoying about what's going on? Take that into consideration and maybe do more of it. Look to what's been asking, drawing your attention. Maybe it's an itch at the back of the head. Maybe it's your to-do list that you haven't got to. Maybe it's a book that you want to sit and read. This is time to go inward and nurture yourself. Mercury in retrograde isn't about broken emails or appointments being rearranged. This stuff happens 365 days of the year. This is about using Mercury in retrograde to go inward and nurture what hasn't been nurtured for a while within. This is time to tend to you. And so, if today's conversation resonated with you and you'd like to explore more deeply, I've written a companion article that is posted on Substack where I expand this week's teaching. And you can also visit my website, kimberlyjolivet.com. And through that, you can find my Substack blog. And you can also find the Tree of Life Sanctuary, where we have more events, more conversations, and a lot more things going on. And that's where we can actually interact with each other. And I do welcome you there. It is a free sanctuary, and there's always free things going on in there. So I want to thank you and for being here and joining in on my journey. And of course, I'd like, subscribe to my channel, join the sanctuary, and let's continue this conversation and keep exploring these inner depths with ourselves right now, because July is filled with such powerful energy that this is literally a moment where if we capitalize on it, we can grow from it. Thank you.